Welcome, friends of the show. We are back with another episode of the Ferris Wheel Serious Rock Talk podcast.
Ooh, all right.
A big thanks for your emails, suggestions, and your support on our social media platforms. Continue to email us at seriousrocktalk@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Listen to a new show every week. Just tune in each Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. New York City time on Cap City Beats, located at www.capcitybeats.ca. Okay, buckle up for some serious rock talk. All right, gentlemen, to the left of me, a man who knows nothing more than smoking cigars with George Burns.
George Burns, my God. You Dr. Ian Clark.
And then a man to the right of me who wanted to go on the Craig Ferguson show, and they told him, go to Arsenio. It's not happening.
Stephen Wheeler.
There you go.
Or Carcinio. Oh, yeah. Ooh.
So, what's on the burner today, Mr. Wheels?
We are talking heavy metal.
How heavy is it?
Really heavy, my friend.
Fantastic.
And you could wonder why heavy metal in a classic rock show, but frankly, it's my view that heavy metal exists only because of classic rock. It's actually more or less the bastard child of classic rock to a certain extent. Let's first of all define what we think of as metal music. So, like every good recipe, you have to have good ingredients. So, good metal music has fast tempos, heavy distortion, powerful rhythms, usually very dense guitar and bass sounds that will blow the roof off your house. The instruments can vary, but usually you'll find some electric guitars, some bass guitars, and of course, some drums.
It's the classic setup. Yeah.
Exactly. That being said, there are so many subgenres of metal. Some of them use organs, electronic keyboards, and other instruments, but we'll get into that a little further down.
Sure.
The lyrics, that's kind of debatable. It goes with the different times, but they're usually of a dark nature. You don't listen to heavy metal music to hear about puppies.
No.
It's usually war, death, depression, remorse, justice, and guilt. You know, the funny stuff of life.
Yeah, it's really lighthearted stuff.
Exactly.
It's very easy listening because
It sure is.
But it has become classic rock now.
Yeah, it's with Bacharach stuff. Yeah.
That being said, there are metal songs out there about love and joy, but let's face it.
Really?
Yeah, well, some power ballads back in the
Power
80s.
ballads, yeah.
But, I mean, most of them are not on those subjects.
But that had to happen because they needed to also break onto like the top 40
I
pop
know.
charts
yeah.
to kind of get known.
They did.
You know, like when you think of metal, you should ask the question to us people in the room with you. Seriously, when you say, so ask me, so when you hear metal, what do you think of?
What do you think of when you hear metal?
Okay, when I hear metal, I think of Dave Lombardo from Slayer. I think of Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and I guess you could probably throw Motorhead in there. Then I figure the groundbreaking metal guys have to be Metallica. That changed the template in the 80s. And Motley Crue to a certain point, but then they kind of went more modern rock. Ian, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that's right.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. So to tie it all together, what I wanted to do was do a little chronology. So those of you who listen to us know a little more about history of rock than maybe your average listener.
You better.
I'm basically presenting to you heavy metal as a subgenre of rock. So to really understand where it comes from, we have to go back all the way to the 50s. Where the first heavy guitar riffs kind of started happening.
Yeah, it's true.
So we could call the great granddaddy of metal people like Link Wray's Rumble, the Kingsmen Louie, Cotton Crop Blues by James Cotton, like this stuff. Like
Fire and Rain by James Taylor.
Anything. That guy's so heavy now. He went insane.
Barry Manilow, Mandy. That was a pretty heavy song.
Scary.
You could also say that some granddaddies of heavy metal are people like Cream, because you've got the acid rock and psychedelic rock that are to a certain extent like the primitive ooze in which heavy metal, and Jimi Hendrix. Let's face it, like
it's a really good point. I always thought Hendrix headed toward metal, and there's the group Mountain with Mississippi Queen. That is heading right toward metal fast.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
same with Led Zeppelin too. They were saying that was the album
Yeah.
that broke the barrier to move forward into the more heavier hard rock, and also Iron Maiden. You know, before they came out as Iron Maiden, they actually were going by the name of Ash Mountain. So good. There's a
That
lesson if
sounds
you're-
so 60s. Yeah.
that you find, even though it started in the
They always
70s.
did stuff like that. Yeah.
So the date I'm going to give you guys as not necessarily the birth date, but the
Ground
conception date.
zero- ground zero?
The
Okay.
ground zero would be 1967.
Okay.
Judas Priest.
No, Jimi Hendrix, Purple Haze. This is when you're getting some
Yeah.
really heavy distortion. So you have to remember. So we're in the 60s. The 60s can be basically 2 half decades. So there's an unparalleled explosion of popular music. So the first half of the decade is really the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, and the Kinks. So if you have I Want to Hold Your Hand, then you go to Painted Black, My Generation, and then you get to You Really Got Me. So you're basically entering, if we could call it that, the second generation of rock. That's behind the original people like
Yeah.
Elvis Presley and Little Richard, which are kind of blues artists that have become rock artists. And then the later half, which we could call third generation, which is like really the forebearers of this style, which is hard rock, more or less. You got Cream, for example, Tales of Brave Ulysses. That's really starting to get heavy. You have Led Zeppelin. At that point, I'd say the early Zeppelin, like Communication Breakdown, and Voodoo Child. All this is in
true.
'67.
No, it's a good observation. Yeah.
And you have the Vietnam War, which is starting to make things a lot heavier than it was, because you're no longer in bubble gums. And
They don't want Hermes anymore. No.
No, exactly.
Did they ever really want Herman's Hermits?
You've got a lovely daughter.
Yeah, I think they did for a little while,
Just for a little.
like 10 minutes.
So, but the actual birth of heavy metal is Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath, the first album. So that's 1970. And the birth country of metal, unlike rock, unlike hip hop, and unlike most of the genres of the 20th century, is England. And more specifically, working class Britain, and in the case
I know.
of,
It's really true. It's a working class movement, metal.
and it's Birmingham, to be very precise. Like in '68, these guys were making a sound that was really their life. So if you listen to early Sabbath, you hear in Iron Man, you hear the steel mills, you hear really hard edge things like Fairy Wears boots, and the Devil Intervals that talks to you about basically some of the stuff that these guys were watching. So what was playing in England, Hammer movies and old Boris Karloff movies.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
all of this comes together and it creates this really new way of looking at it. And you have, I would call it the Holy Trinity, but it's 4 guys. So metal is born thanks to the riffs of Tawny Iommi's. You've got the intelligent lyrics of Geezer Butler. You've got Bill Ward, who's pounding his drums like there's a gathering storm up ahead. And you have Ozzy. Well, it's Ozzy. I can't really say. There's something special about the guy. You can't say that Ozzy's a normal singer. He's just he's Ozzy.
Ozzy's awesome. I just love his new album's not bad. I have it.
Yeah, it's got a good review.
He's got good guys on, and Jeff Lynne is there, producing as usual.
No, you're right. He's an entertainer, Osborne. He always was. He's good live. That's his thing.
He's smart. Well, his wife is pretty
wife's
smart.
His wife's a lot smarter. Wouldn't cross her.
So Black Sabbath, what it brought, it wasn't so much complexity, because you have to remember, like the Beatles, all these guys were getting really complex. Black Sabbath is not complex. It's powerful. And it's intense.
It was a reaction against complexity.
Exactly.
It was a reaction against the Moody Blues, who were singing Nights in White Satin, and these guys are singing Paranoid. Like,
Or War Pigs.
Or War Pigs, yeah. So then we get to 1972, and you got Deep Purple with Highway Star.
great song.
And they're experimenting with a lot of influences. They are more or less like Black Sabbath. These are working class guys. But unlike Black Sabbath, the sound is not as amateurish, and it's not so much like the stuff you
Yeah.
would hear around the mill kind of thing. These guys are more professional musicians.
Yeah, they're bluesy.
Exactly, yeah.
I always thought they were a bluesy band.
And from a musical standpoint, they have instrumental prowess that the guys from Black Sabbath, at least at that time, didn't really possess yet. But it's really hard driving, turbocharge, heavy metal. But we're not yet where it's what we consider classic metal necessarily in '72, but it's gonna get there. And Richie Blackmore's guitar pyrotechnics are actually, to a certain extent, like the prototype of what will be metal for the next 20 years. And then we get to the late 70s with Judas Priest, and now we're more or less where everybody is like, this is what we really understand as metal.
They finally got
seven-
inducted, and finally inducted now.
Yeah,
Finally, like it only took 80 years.
it's supposed to be what 25 from first recording.
So they should have been. What are you saying? Late 70s wheels? Well, they came out in
78, more or
'68
less,
actually, so they should have been already in by 1990.
Yeah, so but they become heavy metal with L bent on for leather, which is again very
You know what? I never really understood Judas Priest though. I respect them, but I never really got into it. Never.
I think it's a generational thing.
Yeah, maybe. But I know they're good. Like my cousin Dominic, man, he's like when he growing up as a kid, he had all the Judas Priest vinyls, all the Maiden vinyls. He was all the metal. And I should go find him, see if he still has them. Talk to my cousin.
We should get him on the show.
So basically, what Judas Priest is they are the working class guys. They're actually from the same city as Black Sabbath. They come from Birmingham. But they have more of the complexity of Deep Purple. So they are the marriage of both. And they have a really unique talent. So you get the twin guitar attacks of Glenn Tipton. You've got vocal abilities from Rob Alford that are out of this world. For rock or every musical genre, the guy had pipes like you wouldn't believe. And they've had a lasting legacy, not only musically, but in terms of style. So these are the guys that brought leather and studs to music to a great extent. That being said, back in the 70s, nobody knew Rob Alford was gay. But
No.
the aesthetics were co-opted then by gay clubs in London.
That's true.
So if you've ever seen the first Police Academy movie, like that, we're right smack like at that time where it was.
Oh yeah, the
really-
Blue Oyster.
Exactly.
It was like the Blue Oyster. It was all these biker dudes.
I remember that movie.
That was funny, man. All 6 of them were fantastic.
Who was that? Steve Gutenberg or something.
Yeah,
I remember
and,
him.
what was the guy that played Larvell Jones there? The
Oh,
sound
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Bubba Smith, former NFL player.
Yeah, I remember Bubba Smith.
Yeah,
Big guy.
yeah. He passed. He actually passed away.
Did he?
Yeah, he did a couple years ago. Well, I think more than a couple years ago. But yeah, he was a former. I want to see he was at the time they Los Angeles or Oakland. Oh, he's a Raider. I think he was a former Raider. There's a lot of them that are NFL.
Bubba
ex-NFL.
Smith, yeah.
He was massive, man. He was huge.
He's often played the cop in the movie or the private detective or one of those things. Yeah. He's an actor. He did acting, yeah. Sorry.
No, perfectly fine. So after the 70s, so this is like the proto-metal. Then we get to the 80s. And the 80s is what we could call the new wave of British heavy metal.
All right, give me some bands.
Iron Maiden.
Okay, I like them.
So we're still centered primarily in England. So you have to think about this. The first more or less 10 years of heavy metal's existence was essentially British, which is really rare. It didn't really cross until...
It's an excellent point. It never made it across the pond.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Well, there are theories why it never caught on until the 80s in a big way in the United States.
So,
But
the 80s, though, we owe metal's popularity to a few bands that my colleague is actually already, some of them he's already mentioned. Iron Maiden, Motorhead, Saxon, and Diamond Head.
Oh, Saxon, yeah. I always called them Saxon. I always thought they were French.
Well, with a name like that, yeah.
C'est Saxon. Allô, Alphonse, ça va? Oui, Saxon.
So basically, what these guys did, they took the metal of the three granddaddies, then they put some blues in it, and then they infused some punk. And so what came out was faster and more aggressive and more bombastic than ever before, and it was just right at the term where people needed a lot of power coming out of their speakers.
And some of these guys, though, their songs were long.
Oh yeah,
Like towards the end, like Maiden should just stop producing albums. Like I like Maiden, but like after a certain year, like the Frontier album, holy cow, 8 tracks, 13 minutes. The hell? Who's got 13 minutes?
No one does that.
Like, you know,
That just puts you to sleep. I don't care how loud it is.
like, my God.
No one's dancing.
Like I respect it. Okay, you're illustrating your musical abilities. Fantastic. You're great musicians, and how long could Bruce Dickinson sing? Like,
Yeah.
but it's too long.
No, it's too long for rock. You guys have heard me say it 1,000 times.
3 minutes.
3 to 4 minutes. Stop it. After that, it's over.
so we get to the mid '80s, and thanks to these guys, metal has finally gotten out of England. So the acceptance and the popularity has left mainland England. It goes to Europe, North America, and South America, and I'm starting to hear cocktail music.
Oh, not cocktail music. That can only mean one thing. And in this case, I think it means Clark comments.
Double C for Canadian Club Whiskey. Clark's comments.
I can't be Canadian.
Clark's concerns.
I'm deeply concerned about the way parents are being. No.
Welcome to Clark Comments. Shut up and buckle up as the good doctor kicks out the jams and offers a selection of questionable, disturbed opinions that are somehow related to popular music.
And I'm going to call this Rock is a Career Choice, When to Begin. Now, this came because I was reading an article on indiepanda.net, and it got me thinking. It's called 35 Musicians and Singers Who Started Late. Because everybody knows classic rockers always start in their teens, usually rather after completing grade 8 with straight Fs, even in woodshop. Well, not necessarily. Age 25 used to be the cutoff for making it in rock music. Again, not necessarily. So let's take a look at a few rockers, certainly not 35 of them, God help me, because that would take too much of your time, and who knows, you might still be trying to become a rock star. So let's begin. Noel Gallagher. Age at breakthrough, 26. Lead guitarist, vocalist, songwriter for the band Oasis. He was 26 when they had their debut Supersonic in 1994. Prior to this, he worked as a road crew member for a band called Imperial Carpets. Boy, did he jump the rails. Bonnie Raitt, age at breakthrough, 27. She released her debut at age 22, but she didn't achieve success until 27. Sting. He was about 25 when they made it with the Police. Before that, he was a school teacher. He just doodled around in his spare time with the bass. Sheryl Crow, 25. Studied music education at university, became an elementary school teacher. Who knew this? It wasn't until she was 25 and she worked as a backup vocalist for Michael Jackson. It's pretty good. And Stevie Wonder. She was 31 when her first album was released. I remember that. Kanye West, or as he's known now, Yeah. Kanye was 26. He went to the American Academy of Art and Chicago State University. Who knew that? He dropped out to pursue music, was producer at Rockefeller, and released his first album, The College Dropout, in 2004. He was 26. So these guys are just floating around this 25 age. Jay-Z, another dropout guy, he was 26 in 1996. He started a label, God bless him. Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen's not really rock, but I get the idea. He was 34. That's because he spent the 20s and 30s pursuing a writing career, wrote some great poetry and some 2 novels, I think. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he was 34 when he released the songs of Leonard Cohen. Bruce Springsteen was 25 when he released Born to Run. So he just made it. Cyndi Lauper was 30 when she released She's So Unusual. Debbie Harry, this I knew. She came really late to it. She was a former Playboy bunny, and she did a bunch of stuff. She had another band, and she was 31 when Blondie released its first album. Emmylou Harris was 27. She'd been with Graham Parsons and stuff before that, but she was 27 when she made it with an album called Pieces of the Sky. Freddie Mercury was 29 when Queen really broke through. He was in art college before that. The band formed in 1970. And 5 years later, when he was 29, they saw success. Willie Nelson was 42. Now, before that, he was in the U.S. Air Force. He worked as a bouncer, which surprised me. He was a little guy. He was in the University of Texas. He studied agriculture. Like, he wouldn't think of it. Then it was a redheaded stranger, and he was 42 years old. Joey Ramone was 25. Founded the Ramones. They released their first album in 76. After that, they had 14 studio albums. Who knew that? Chuck Berry was 29. Yeah, the father of rock and roll. Before that, he had all kinds of jobs. He worked in an automobile plant primarily. 29 when Maybelline hit. Bill Withers was a construction worker. He released Ain't No Sunshine when he was 33. Christy McVie, Fleetwood Mac, was 32 when Rumors hit. So she'd been around before that, but you wouldn't have known her. Mark Knopfler was 29 when Dire Straits released Sultans of Swing. Just made it. Roger Waters was 30 when Dark Side of the Moon came out. Ann Wilson from Heart was 25 when Dreamboat Annie was released. So there you have it. You're never too old to rock, and you're never too old to start a band. Actually, you are. Don't be pathetic. I'm just giving you the truth, which I always do on Clark Comments.
It's interesting. The fact that you mentioned Kanye actually was the one that produced Jay-Z and got Jay-Z going.
Yeah.
That's what people tend to realize. They like to harp on Kanye. I don't mind Kanye, actually, when you put his rap music. But yeah, that album there, College Dropout, is probably one of his best ones. I think after he released Yeezus, that's where he kind of should have just went back to producing, because the other stuff wasn't all that hot. But Up to Yeezus, that's a good album. And you guys are like, I just like the name Yeezus, but it's a good album. And Sheryl Crow, would have loved to have her as my teacher. Wow.
Yeah. So
Well, your grades probably would have gone down. No, your interest would have been up.
You know what? I'll be honest. In high school,
attendance would go skyrocket.
in high school, I did really well in grade 10 math, and my parents couldn't understand why. And then when they went to PTA, my dad's like, okay.
I understand.
And he didn't mind being in the front of the class given the alphabetical order. I was quite happy. God bless her.
Good for her.
Yeah, well, hey, we're young, right?
Exactly. So we get to the point now where metal is on its way up, and like many things that are on their way up, that's when trouble starts brewing. So around 1986, what I'm using as a benchmark here, 86, is Metallica's Master of Puppets.
Very good album. Might I recommend?
Well, yeah. So at this point, metal, you have two types of metals that most people know of: air metal and trash metal.
Thrash metal, not trash.
Oh, sorry.
So
Freudian slip.
trash metal was the really bad metal.
Well, thrash is guys like Slayer, Pantera.
I'm just kidding around.
It's more American, do I find. It's more American dominated.
Well, that's it. So in the mid-80s, we go from England and Europe to a lot of the west coast of North America. So we have a lot of bands from Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Vancouver even in some cases.
True.
And this is the era of bands like Poison, Motley Crue, and you've got either something you really like or you really hated, which was hair metal. So hair bands were more about the spectacle than they were about the music to a certain extent.
All right, my generation. Let's talk about this. Yeah, here we go.
That being said, they were commercially much more successful. We tend to forget now how big these guys got with a very simple song structure. The lyrical content was, let's face it, very light. It was all about fast cars, partying, and a good life, which is the exact opposite of the early years.
I was going to say MTV helped them too.
Well, exactly.
And plus, these guys are like guys like Bret Michaels and Vince Neil.
Dee Snider. Yeah, these guys did really well.
They did really well, and like the fact is that they had this persona with the nice hair, and they were like good looking, and all the girls had pictures of them on their.
Oh, they're all blonde beach guys. Yeah.
Even Sebastian Bach was a heartthrob, and if you look at him now, he looks awful.
I know, the poor guy. The people. Wow, how the mighty have fallen. Sorry, Sebastian.
No,
but it's funny because there was, if you ever whoever finds us on our TikTok, when you kind of scroll on TikTok, there's a few metal groups I follow, and there's one girl she had posted saying, "How did this turn into this?" In other words, she had posted younger pictures of Axl Rose, Vince Neil, Brett Michaels and
Yeah.
Sebastian Bach, and how I guess they looked good. And now, fast forward 40 years,
Yeah.
it's like, Jesus.
Jesus.
David Lee Roth looks like my lawyer.
Well, David Roth, he cut his hair super short now.
Yeah.
Well, what was left of it?
Yeah. Like, they've changed, obviously,
It's
with
been
time.
40 years, yeah.
40 years, but just the one that looked the worst is Sebastian
Really?
Bach. Yeah. And you're not surprised.
Back to Peterborough.
Is he going there?
No, I don't know.
So, as a reaction to these guys, you have Metallica, Exodus, Testament, Megadeth, Slayer. In Seattle, you have Metal Church, and in Vancouver, you got Annihilator. These guys, this was trash metal. It's harder, faster, louder. This is breakneck speed in terms of how they're playing. Like James Hetfield, Dave Mustaine, and Kerry Kong and Jeff Adaman from Slayer. These guys are insanely gifted, but they sound like basically you've accelerated the tape. It's almost impossible to think that people can actually play this quickly and this precisely. They changed the norm completely. That being said, this being the 80s, and the era of MTV, they started huge wars with the hair bands. The vitriol that they spewed was really something. And these guys were a lot more politically out there. They were critical, and by the end of the 80s, some people said that heavy metal had become schizophrenic and developing into pushing extremes. Until the 1990s, when you get to Pantera, and this is an era where it's strangely enough, in like 4 years, air metal completely disappeared. They are considered so uncool that they have to find a new way of going about their day. Metallica releases Enter the Sandman. Megadeth goes into Symphony of Destruction. So they go a different way. In the sense that they are more streamlined, more commercially palatable, but it's still very interesting music.
Yeah, but those are the two strong ones that kind of survived.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, they changed image too.
They had to.
You have to.
Like, where do you put Helix, Voivod? What's it? Voivod?
I don't know.
FM? Where do you classify those guys?
They're like heavy prog.
Like, what do you do? It's a really good point. You guys have heard me say, and I was there. Where do you play punk? On FM late at night? The Queen ain't a human being. Like it's club music.
Who's listening to punk now though? And all this neo punk, like they're saying, oh well, Green Day and Blink-182. It's not really neo punk. They're more alt rock, really.
If you want punk, really go back to the Sex Pistols. Go back to the late 70s.
Social Distortion.
Yeah, there's no possible.
Joe Strummer and company.
Yeah, well, yeah, even the Clash is pretty punky.
Well, understandable. Oh, the Ramones.
The Ramones, sure.
So at this point, what actually happens though for all of this to change is grunge. Grunge takes over everything. This is probably one of the reasons why Metallica and Megadeth had to go a more sophisticated way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then you get acts like the Dallas-based Pantera, who enjoy a commercial success out of nowhere to a certain extent by exploring and forcing their type of metal to become an hybrid of. Some people actually see Pantera as grunge mixed with metal, which is interesting.
They're almost retro.
They're Gretel.
or Rettel.
This is also the era where subgenres start really showing up. So you have extreme metal that appears at this point. There's a band called Black. Then you have the band Death. They didn't try very hard. No.
You got to realize that's also a time too where like collaboration with rap. We got Public Enemy and Anthrax that were trying to collaborate, and I'll still go back because at one point in time they kind of considered Aerosmith a little bit more harder rock than normal.
Oh, yeah.
And then I love when you agree with me, Ian, when I say, well, Run DMC revived their career. You're like, absolutely they did, because they were horrible. You said they were
unwatchable, but they were Toxic Twins were a joke. They couldn't sell out a coffee house. And then that video came out with Run DMC. Wow, 180.
So they owe them a big thank
They
you.
sure do.
So by 1992, hair metal is now completely gone. A lot of metal actually is on its way out. The masses are starting to leave in droves.
Right.
And the last hurrah of metal in the 90s is actually a grunge album. It's Alice in Chains Down in a Hole. That's
Yeah.
you got
When was that? 90 what?
92 more or less.
Oh.
That
early, okay.
So grunge basically tells these guys to take the strain out of your hair, bring in some good lyrics, some angst, and most of these guys couldn't do it. And you got some of the granddaddies like Judas Priest has lost Rob Alford at that point. Iron Maiden just lost Bruce Dickinson. Sabbath is in its I can't remember how many.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dickinson's back with Maiden. He's still.
Oh yeah, no, but we're talking like mid '90s at this point.
Yeah, well, he only pieced out for like an hour. Really, he wasn't gone that long.
True, but I mean, if you looked back in '92, metal did not have a bright future at that point.
No, it was very stagnant. It was quiet. Metallica had to go that other route to keep up.
Exactly.
Same with Megadeth with Symphony of Destruction. That's a good album, actually, Symphony of Destruction.
Well, it's a classic. Everybody knows.
So, but it basically metal goes into a coma for about, well, not a coma, but at least they go underground for
Hibernation,
about
yeah.
a decade. While grunge fizzes out, alternative rock tends to take over modern rock charts. And then something happens. Metal moves around again, so it leaves the States. I mean, not completely, but diehard fans are still there. So what happens is, like, your average fan is gone, but the diehard are still loyal, still asking for great stuff, and you have the arrival of avant-garde musicians that are using metal as a way to create a new style. So you have symphonic metal that appears. So there's the group Camelot. You got folk metal, melodic death. You've got progressive death, which is Opeth, for those of you who know Opeth. Technical death, which is Meshuggah. And, I mean, it's also moving around. So we're no longer just in the States. We have the Nordic countries. So Sweden is really big.
I know. Isn't that bizarre? Sweden's big on metal.
Yeah.
Well, South America would bring in Sepultura.
Exactly. Finland.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised about Finland.
Norway. These guys were pushing the boundaries in the early 2000s. You also have some of the old guys that are now in a reunion mode. So Iron Maiden,
Yeah, for good reason.
releases Wicker Man, Judas Priest, Judas Rising,
Called
and even
Empty
Black
Bank
Sabbath
Account,
comes back.
But who filled in for Ozzy when he left?
Where there was
A few guys, right?
James Dio for a while.
Ronnie.
Ronnie, yeah. You've got. I can't remember. The
There's a
lineup
few guys
changed
that
so
filled in.
much.
Yeah, they changed a lot.
No one beats Ozzy. Sorry.
No, well, that's the thing.
I
And
guess
that's
I'm-
why
I'm,
they
I'm
retired.
biased. Hey guys, I admit it on the show.
Oh, yeah.
I have my favorites. I'm not gonna lie. I'll defend him in court. It's all good. He was with me.
So basically, we're now hearing again some lounge music.
It's just coming through the radiator, and I wish we got to take care of that, Kennedy.
Welcome to Kennedy's Corner. Following the advice of a behavioral psychologist, Ferris Kennedy has created a forum to express his nightmares, his terror, and his love of rock music. Dr. Clark and medicated Wheeler help with his therapy by answering questions, or just acting like they're interested.
So today I have a topic called Who Has a Better Voice? This could be either fact or your personal opinion or preference.
Okay.
And considering we're on the topic of, and obviously I kind of put it in perspective of what you guys listen to. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Sure.
All right.
What the hell?
Ian, who has a better voice?
Yes.
Gino Vanelli or Vince Gill?
Oh, that's mean. That's really mean. Ladies and gentlemen, they both, check them both out. They both have great voices. I'm going to go, because I've been listening to him with Vince Gill.
Vince Gill?
He has like an angelic voice, perfect pitch.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of all the Glenn Frey songs. He mostly does
He
them
fills
now.
in, yeah.
Elton John or Billy Joel?
they both are so similar. By the way, I saw them together on the same bill. I'm gonna go with Billy Joel. I never thought that Elton had a great voice. Good singer, but not great. Yeah.
Okay. Joe Strummer or Joey Ramone?
Oh, I would go with Strummer because he's just so much character, right? With that accent and angry and yeah.
Okay. Robert Plant or Roger Daltrey?
Roger Daltrey, just for emotive range. Yeah.
Now this one here I put in here because we did a show a couple years back and you agreed with me that he should have gone in the hard rock era. So Michael Bolton
Right.
or Brian Johnson?
It pains me to say this, but Michael Bolton has an incredible voice. I don't know why he got sloppy and went into, I know why, money, ballads. But ladies and gentlemen, hear him singing like Dock of the Bay, the old Otis Redding hit. He has an incredible voice. Sorry, it's painful.
Do you think if he would have gone on a rock era, he would have been a little bit more prominent?
Yeah, I think he would have felt better about being alive. I mean, he's very wealthy, like a Kenny G type guy, but these awful, dreadful ballads. Behind that is, I think the Simpsons one Simpsons episode made fun of him one time. He can blow your hair off, but he just went soft.
Although he did a great song a few years ago with the guys on SNL.
Oh, did he?
I can't remember the name of that group, the parody group, but it was just insane. Like
Spinal Tap or something?
Yeah, kind of. But you saw his range. He had an incredible range.
It's scary.
He still does.
Is he?
For his age, oh, yeah, he still goes. All right, Neil Young or Bob Dylan?
Oh, that's a really, really good comparison.
It's loaded too. I did it on purpose.
I know you did. And listeners of the show, friends of the show, will know that I have problems with Neil Young. I think Dylan, yes, I know he sings flat and this and that, but Dylan, how could I say this? Dylan, I give it a reasons in my own mind. Okay, both of them have horrible voices. One way to test this is, and it's the only way to test it, is how do they sound singing other people's songs? And usually Bob Dylan sounds horrible, where Neil Young can pull off other people's songs better than Bob. So I'm going to go with Neil.
All right. Because he wanted to be a singer, and his dad says, okay, Neil.
He said, okay, let's have some dinner.
Here's a good one for you. Timothy B. Schmidt
Yeah.
or Roger Hodgson?
You know, it's funny. Those guys have the same range. I can't tell you why. I mean, Jesus.
Schmidt's good. I saw the Eagles
really
recently.
good.
And,
I'm going with Schmidt because, I just like his stuff.
And you like his hair.
Beautiful hair. And he's kind of cute.
As a button.
Jimi Hendrix or Lenny Kravitz?
Kravitz has a better voice. Jimi Hendrix, I can get in trouble. Oh, write me an email and I'll get back to you. But Jimi Hendrix, in my opinion, didn't have a great voice. He had an okay voice. I don't think he ever said he had a great voice. No.
I don't think he pretended.
His sister Janie, by the way, is putting out a book, and it would have been Jimmy's 80th birthday.
Yeah, by the way, a lot has been said about, in quotes, his sister, who isn't really his sister. She's terrifying. But there's a great book out about what she's done to the Hendrix estate, which I read, which is really, really scary. So,
Lennon or McCartney?
I think Paul McCartney is a better voice. Lennon never liked his voice. I think it's Paul McCartney has just an incredible voice. I know he's 80 years old now, but in his prime, wow.
And I don't think he abused it as much. Like, he didn't drink as much and he didn't smoke as much.
He didn't scream, right?
Yeah.
What's his name? Lennon went into that primal scream therapy in the 70s, which probably didn't help.
Mick Jagger or Steven Tyler?
Steven Tyler. Mick Jagger never thought he had a great voice. That wasn't the point. The point, he's very, he's an entertainer. Tyler's underrated. He can sing ballads, hard rock. I think he's a great voice.
Tom Johnston or Tom Scholes?
Okay, Tom Scholes. You mean the Boston guy?
Boston or the Doobie Brothers guy?
Yeah, well, I'm going. I'm going the Doobies. So, Tom Scholes, he didn't even sing in Boston. Not much. The lead singer, the constant fighting. I think he finally quit.
He's the only one. It's him.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Eric Burdon of the Animals or Rod Argent of the Zombies?
Well, I know you like Eric Burdon. I'm going to say Eric Burdon has a great expressive voice. Argent was great, who also had the band Argent later on with Hold Your Head Up. But no, he wasn't known for his voice.
And the last one for you, my friend,
Yeah.
David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
Oh, I'm not gonna. If I want to, you're not gonna poison my dinner. This
No,
week.
no, I don't care, guys. I
come
don't
on.
care. It does. I don't know why you guys have to suck up to me. I'm not going to kick the crap out of you yet, but I'm just saying,
Yet.
Yes.
That's the key word there.
Put some metal shavings in his steak. No, I would say David Lee Roth. Okay, I'll qualify this a bit. When he started out, he didn't have a great voice. They taught him how to sing those songs. I really think Eddie taught him how to sing, and he ended up pretty good with Bozy Bozy Bop Diddy Bop.
So you're going with Roth or
I'm going with Roth.
okay, Mr. Wheeler,
Yes, sir.
Vince Neil or Axl Rose,
Vince Neil.
Yeah, I can't handle Axel.
Eddie Vedder or Lane Staley,
Eddie Vedder.
Yeah,
James Hetfield or Lemmy Kilmister.
that's a nice one.
Lemmy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as much range, but
Yeah.
you felt the guts coming out of that.
He was more like in your face type of guy.
yeah.
Totally in your face.
Kurt Cobain or Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy. I love
really?
Kurt. Yeah, but Ozzy had well, first of all, he's just a freak of nature. I mean, the fact that he's still alive to this day, and he's still, like you said, I have that latest album. It still sounds amazing, considering everything he's put his body through.
Yeah, I know.
Don Henley or Levon Helm? As you see, I went like drummer,
Yeah,
lead
that's really an
singers.
interesting comparison. Both great singers. Eh?
Yeah. Levon Helm, I think.
Yeah. Rod Stewart or Chris Cornell?
Oh wow, that's almost impossible to answer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd go with Chris Cornell.
Okay.
I'd go with Rod, actually, to be honest.
That's a really you did
because the
work
thing
on
is
this.
with Chris, the great thing about him is that there's not too much out there, so he hadn't had a chance to go and do really bad albums.
No, it's interesting.
Oh, I don't know. His album Scream was pretty terrible. So
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Was it?
he went with. I think he did some work with Timbaland. Whatever. It was, he had to try something. Whatever. It's all good. Anthony Kiedis or Lou Reed?
Oh,
Take a walk on the dark. Was it Wild Side in dark?
Take a walk on the wild side. Doop de doop doop doop.
as an artist, I'd go with Lou Reed.
We're not talking about artists. We're talking about vocals.
Yeah.
I don't care.
You're not going to get it that way.
Sorry, it doesn't matter. That's the question. Quit tiptoeing around. What are you?
Lou Reed.
Lou Reed. Jeez, you sound like our prime minister. He tiptoes around every freaking question. Shannon Hoon or Bon Scott?
Bon Scott.
Phil Collins or Peter Gabriel?
Oh, Phil
Oh
Collins.
wow, that's interesting.
Okay.
But I have to say this: I find Peter Gabriel the more interesting artist.
Well, yeah.
But Phil Collins, you just leave it in the background, and you can easily get into it.
James Taylor or Donovan Leitch?
Leitch. Taylor.
Doctor My Eyes.
No, that's Jackson Brown.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Donovan.
Donovan is mellow yellow.
Actually, you know what? I wanted to give you Jackson Brown. Never mind. Geddy Lee or Ian Anderson?
Ian Anderson.
Yeah, thank God. Billy Idol or Roger Waters?
Ooh.
Oh, that's interesting.
Phew.
I know who I'd go for. I think.
I mean, Roger Waters is the more interesting one, whereas Billy Idol I find is more reliable. So, from a reliable standpoint, I'm going to go with Billy Idol.
Wow, we're going on attendance here. Okay, good. And then the last one, George Harrison or Eric Clapton?
Oh, that's
Christ.
interesting.
Harrison, because I can't stand Clapton.
No, eh?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Clapton
Hey,
There's a couple of songs, but I mean, it's one of those cases where the artist
gets in the way.
art,
Yeah.
it's just one of those cases. The guy is just so abrasively
I know.
annoying.
He seems like a very angry man.
I think so.
Yeah, he's there's something off with him, but I mean, he did Layla.
Exactly.
So
In every sense of
I'm
the
sorry.
word.
I'm sorry. Yeah, really.
But George did, My Sweet Lord, and
And George was a Beatle.
Wasn't though My Sweet Lord the source of copyright infringement?
Yeah, but that shouldn't have been.
he won that case, did he not?
No, he lost it.
He's right.
They said they wouldn't have gone after him if he hadn't been a Beatle.
No,
Yeah, it sounds vaguely like it. I just thought it was a real rig. trial.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was a terrible thing.
You're interesting you say that because it was just on the radio recently that they talked about the Verve and their song.
I
And it
know.
was
I know what you're gonna talk
The
about.
Klein guy. It was Klein that. You know what I'm talking about? Klein?
Yeah, they did
He was the financial-
the symphony,
Yeah.
Bittersweet Symphony. Just briefly, what it's about is Andrew Loog Oldham, when he was with the Stones, wrote an instrumental version of one of their songs.
And it was the guy that did the finances for the Beatles, Klein. You know who I'm talking about. Andrew Klein.
Alan Klein.
Alan
yeah.
Klein, thank you. So he's the one that forced Oldham's hand to go after the Verve. Just recently, that's what they said.
Is that really?
They said it was him that influenced Andrew Loog.
Oldham?
Yeah, and then recently, maybe about 5 years ago, the Mick and Keith says, "You know what? No, enough's enough. Let them have their royalties. They're the ones that ended it."
Well, it's second generation too. It's based on Oldham's orchestration of a song. And if you put them side by side, so what? It's just a little sample. It's not like it's going to change the world.
He only
It's
took
just-
the first 10 seconds or something.
Yeah, it was just one of those bull-ass things that I thought was just sloppy.
Well,
These
although-
things shouldn't get to court.
No, exactly. But there's this whole argument that music and literature, there's only 26 letters in the alphabet.
Yeah,
There's
really.
only so many notes.
Yeah.
There's only so many mathematical combination you can make at one point. So they're saying basically everyone will eventually copy something they heard, even if they haven't heard it yet.
It
There's just
creeps
so many-
in.
It's
Jimmy
just,
Page got accused of this numerous times.
Yeah, but it's so close with Page. Hey, I'm on the fence. He took stuff that he should have paid out, especially to
Spirit.
Richie Valens' family. Page cut some corners. But to bring it all home, right, Jagger Richards released a song called Anybody Seen My Baby? And if you look at the credits, they have to pay it to K.D. Lang because she had a song called Constant Craving.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And so now you look at the credits, Jagger, Richards, Lang. Sorry, what comes back at you, man? Be careful.
Oh, yeah.
So
No, I remember the CBC used to have like this series almost every night where they would compare it to
Oh, really?
to defend Katie Lang.
or what's the ultimate? Is Joe Satriani and Coldplay. Check out that one. I mean, was it Vita, what it was called.
And the God of the
But check out that one. That was Coldplay paid him off. Even though old Martin there maybe never heard it. It doesn't matter.
So to end a little, so basically we've come around what is the mainstream metal. So ever since the turn of the century, heavy metal has sustained itself as a phenomenon, but it's never become mainstream really anymore. So what I wanted to end with is discussion about the subgenres of heavy metal. So have you ever meet a metalhead, you know what he's talking about? So if a metalhead talks about black metal, he's talking about the early 80s, probably Venom, Celtic Frost, stuff that originated in Europe usually, and some of the early stuff that came out of the United States. It's usually very dark. There's a lot of background hiss, distorted guitars, and there's a lot of ambient noise. You do not use these records to test your hi-fi system.
All right, I'm not gonna. That won't be in my collection, guaranteed. Next,
Death metal. So, contrary to popular belief, death metal music is not named like that for using death-related themes all the time. Actually, it usually talks about religion, philosophy, politics, and even science fiction.
It just makes you deaf.
It actually originated thanks to the vocalist and bassist of the band Possessed, whose name was Jeff Becerra.
I know that
And,
name. Yeah.
He actually used it in one of his English class assignments back in '83.
Good for him. I love stuff like that.
And he used it later in 1984 for one of his demos. This style, you have a lot of distortion, low tunes, and palm muting as well. Then you get to power metal. Power metal tends to be slightly more controversial than classical heavy metal music. So here, there's a lot of heavy sound. There are strong choruses, melodic harmonies. You have bands like Dragon Force and Gamma Ray that are the big headliners of this style. Then you got thrash metal, super fast tempos, low guitar riffs, and it's considered to be the most aggressive subgenre of heavy metal. Here you actually can put some of granddaddies in this area. They're not, of course, they're not metal, but Symptom of the Universe by Black Sabbath is not thrash metal, but you get the gist. Some people say Stone Cold Crazy by Queen is actually somewhat thrash metal. And Am I Evil by Diamond Head. So these are...
Some people think Helter Skelter is by the Beatles. I heard that.
Oh, yeah.
When I get to the top, God, I can't take that song.
So if you're talking to a metalhead about stuff that came out after 1990, you'll say, oh, that's new metal. NU metal.
Okay.
So you can put Metallica in there. Some people even put Limp Bizkit in there. That you might actually get your head bitten off on that one.
Nah, I think they're more alternative.
Yeah. Some people say Linkin Park, Papa Roach can be considered new metal.
Maybe,
It's
yeah.
debatable.
I know what you mean.
Drowning Pool is probably in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's heavy sound.
Rammstein.
So this is they have new metal doesn't have like as defined characteristics. There is one style that has come out in the last 20 years that's a little more easy to spot. It's metalcore. So that one actually combines extreme metal and hardcore punk. So this I would not advertise. If you have very sensitive speakers, don't put this on your turntable.
This sounds to me like a club gig.
Yeah. So you have bands like Killswitch, Engage, Trivium, and Bullet for My Valentine. These are metalcore.
These are great names.
And you also have bands like The Architects, Bring Me the Horizon, Parkway Drive. So a lot of these guys are metalcore, new metal. So these are the foundations if you want to explore this style of music.
Thank you. That's
So new metal, interesting.
very interesting. Thanks for that.
I consider Metallica legendary. Hey, come on. They revolutionized.
Oh, completely.
They changed it.
Yeah. Been around forever, too, right?
Since
So-
what, 86, 85?
I'd say that's
Yeah,
a long
like
time.
early 80s.
And they're still going.
They're still going.
But Motley Crue's still going.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Judas Priest is touring.
God.
And is Spinal Tap real or are they just a spoof?
No, the spoof.
They are a spoof that are for some strange reason almost becoming real. They're on
Three
their
guys,
third or
they-
fourth album.
Yeah, one of them is married to Jamie Lee Curtis. God bless.
Yeah, Christopher Guest.
Yeah, the one with the big ass.
No, not
No,
that guy.
that's Ari Shear. That's the voice of Mr. Burns and Spinners.
You're thinking, the one you're thinking of is Nigel Tufnell.
Is it Nigel?
Nigel's married to Curtis, yeah.
Okay, Nigel. He's not the one with the big mustache.
No, the big handlebars
Yeah.
from The Simpsons.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Chose fini?
Show's fini.
Okay, bang. Au revoir.
See you later.
Hasta la vista.
Bye.